Well, hey everyone, it's John Ross, and I wanted to talk to you about pricing today. Before I get into the grocery industry, I want to talk a little bit about my experience in the home improvement industry. So every time there's a crisis, a hurricane, a tornado, flood, whatever, if you're in the home improvement industry, it is a sales boost. And it's unfortunate. No one wants anyone to be injured or to have their home destroyed. But on the flip side, if that's the products you sell, it's your job to sell them and you do well. Our strategy when I was in the home improvement industry in the event of these kind of crises was not to sell more stuff. And in fact, specifically, we said our mission is very different. We said our mission was to ensure that people are safe, that their homes are protected, and that they're able to restore damage as quickly as possible to make sure that their home is habitable, right? And that was our entire objective for what we did when I was with Home Depot. Now that difference between thinking of your strategy as sell more stuff while more people are buying versus creating an environment for safety and security, right? It elevates the mission and it educates your associates about what business we're really in, right? We're not in the business of selling boards and lumber and plywood. We're in the business of helping people to ensure that their home is secure. Well, that's going on right now in the grocery industry, and I am so incredibly proud. Just incredibly proud of all the IGA associates out there that are helping to ensure their communities are fed. And they're doing it like we do every day, long hours and working hard and doing all the things that we do. Of course, doing it at sometimes triple volume. So it's just incredible pressure on what we're doing. And into this comes the issue of pricing. Like, what do you do with pricing? And there's a long-term strategy and a short-term strategy with pricing. Now, in the short term, when I was in the home improvement industry, commodity prices go up and down every day, copper pipe and plumbing and the rest of it, and you price to the market. And sometimes your inventory is cheaper than the market when it's accelerating. You make a few extra pennies, and sometimes it's the opposite side and you're losing. But if you average it out over time by keeping your pricing relatively constant and only flexing every 2 or 3 weeks, right, we were able to maintain a consistent margin. But the unfortunate thing that happens during a crisis, there's a storm, for example, hurricanes hit the eastern seaboard, the price of raw materials for manufacturers skyrockets. And it is unfortunate, and it's probably usury in some instances, but the prices go up, supply and demand. And you might be paying 50% more for some items in the weeks leading up to a storm and in the months after a storm based on the demand for those products and services, right? Home Depot, when I was in that industry, we made a decision to normalize our pricing based on what the commodity rate was at least 2 weeks before the storm and try to moderate that for at least 4 weeks after the storm, even if the commodity prices were swinging up and down. And our strategy was this. Eventually, we would have to take a price increase if our cost of raw materials increased. We would have to do it, right? Our strategy was to maintain our gross margin or even decrease our gross margin in the instance of these high need, high demand products, as long as we could stay in stock. As long as we could stay in stock, we would not raise prices even if our margin slipped on those high demand products, because of course you're not just getting that item, you're getting the whole basket. And by doing so, we believed that we would grow market share. Now, that wasn't always true. A lot of local suppliers, a lot of smaller suppliers, one big national retailer, they flexed their prices with commodity pricing, and they probably made a lot more money in the short term during those events than we did. But in the long term, we grew our market share, and you could watch it happen consistently. Event after event after event, we grew our market share. Well, here we are in the grocery industry, and we're amidst of the largest and the only true national crisis of any kind that any of us have seen in our lifetime. Hopefully, it's the only one we'll see. And in this environment, we have a decision. How are we going to use pricing as a short and a long-term weapon? Now, it's easy for me to sit in my office, or actually in my house here, and dispense advice to a small business owner on what to do with his margins. So I don't take this lightly. But I think about what our opportunity is in the marketplace. And I would say this, that wherever possible, we should remain in stock. To be out of stock on a high demand commodity like eggs or milk or ground beef, right? That would be a disservice. We wouldn't be giving shoppers a choice. But for wherever possible, to try to maintain my pricing through the crisis so that the shoppers who shop me while they have to believe that we took care of them as best we could, and in return will continue to shop us when they don't have to, when there are other choices, because they believe that we took care of them, right? That it's essentially an investment, a marketing investment in growing shopper loyalty. Now, many of you are canceling your ads or you're pulling your distribution back. If you're doing 6 pages before, you're doing 2. Some of you are pulling back the number of promotions that you're doing. Certainly manufacturers are pulling back digital coupons and rebates and other things that we would normally see at this time of year. And a lot of people are choosing to promote less in order to maintain, in order to really not disappoint shoppers, to say, this is on sale, but we don't have any. That's really frustrating, right? So I think those are smarter decisions in the short term. But in the long term, if you think about maintaining your prices on in-demand commodities, even if you have to match other competitors, and even if the margin on those products is significantly less than you would normally pay, but you think of that as an investment in marketing dollars that you would have spent someplace else, the statistics and the data at Home Depot were just blindingly clear. We grew market share. And we grew market share by 200, 300, 400 basis points after the event. And that market share increase sustained 1 and 2 years after the events were over. Now, hurricanes and tornadoes are different than this COVID-19 thing. And so none of us really know what's going to happen. But based on that experience and based on the data about how we were able to grow market share in those in our local communities, I would suggest that this is really an incredible opportunity. And you have to take credit for it, right? You have to put a sign up that say, we're paying $2 more for this item than we're selling it to you for, because we want to make sure that your family is fed. I mean, you have to be a promoter. And I would use social media to promote that as well, and let your customers promote it, because what you would be doing in that moment is heroic. But if you think of it as a marketing investment and not just like an erosion of your gross margin, it may make it a more palatable decision, right? Make it easier for you to rationalize the margin expense as an offset against the marketing that you don't have right now. Okay, so let's talk about your ads really quickly. Should you be running ads or not? Should we stop what we're doing? Should we pause? Should we cut back? At IGA, we chose to cut back. We have paused it'll probably end up being a period of 4 to 5 weeks, our national digital ad. And we did that because the items being advertised, some of them were the hot commodity items, and there's no sense of running sales on stuff that you're not going to have. So where supply chain is disrupted, shrinking back the number of promotional items or promotional events just makes sense because you're not disappointing people. But in the long run, we should try to continue to promote and make shoppers feel like that we're investing margin in them as a reward for their continued shopping. And that's a different thinking than perhaps running an ad in order to just stimulate demand. The shoppers are already in our store. Our message, our strategy should be to make them feel like we're doing everything possible to ensure that not only is their family fed, but they're doing it in a way that treats them with respect. And if you do that, it may be a double opportunity to grow market share. So, summary. Crises are an opportunity to grow share in the long term, even if you have to do some margin investment in the short term. Continuing to run promotions in your store and put items on sale, even if they're fewer, right, is a communication to the shopper that we treat them with respect, and we want to make sure their dollars go as far as possible. And then finally, coming out of this, right? So we're going to come out of this with the largest generation of unemployed Americans, and in all of our countries, right, of unemployed citizens than at any time in modern history, not since the Great Depression. Now, it may be temporary, and jobs may restore, and people may go back to work much more quickly than in any other economic recession or depression. But the real fact is our communities are going to need us even more coming out of it than they needed us going into it. Our stores in China continue to see double-digit comp store growth, even though the schools are reopening and they're back at work and public transportation is going, and we don't really know what the normalization curve is going to look like. But earning that shopper's business now and continuing to serve them going forward means that we need to be as aggressive, and our suppliers need to be as aggressive coming out of this storm as we would on any key holiday weekend. And so be thinking about what your ads are going to look like in June and July, what kind of promotions that you could run in order to thank shoppers for their loyalty during the event, and the ways that we could use our print advertising, our digital advertising, and our social media in order to tell that story in a way that makes us look as heroic as we really are. All right, well, I appreciate you spending 6-7 minutes with me. And I look forward to your feedback on the topics that I discussed today. God bless to everyone. Please stay safe in your stores, keep your shoppers safe, and thank you for everything that you do to keep IGA the family choice in all of our markets. Thank you.